Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is October 25th, and right now we're looking at the infrared satellite imagery. We've got our next storm system. It is just now coming up on the Oregon-California border. Check out the yellows. I've got the air mass characteristics overlaid, and you can see this subtropical tap all the way back down south, and that is what's going to be arriving as we go through tonight across Pacific Northwest. Some very windy conditions for some areas. We'll dive into those details, and then we'll be taking a look at this cold air across the Gulf of Alaska, what I like to call these polar lobes. This is going to be arriving as we go through the weekend, and then we're going to get another shot of cold air midweek, and then probably another one as we go through next weekend. And we're going to pile up some mountain snows. Not bad for late October and early November. The problem is here that a lot of that's probably going to melt at some point in November, as we typically get some of these warmer, atmospheric rivers and whatnot that'll eventually melt that snow for the lower terrain. But hopefully some of that sticks around for the higher terrain. So if we take a closer look at our system, you can see we've got some lightning strike activity here. It's going to be moving up the coastline. But the main thunderstorm threat is probably going to happen on the day Sunday when we get the very cold air aloft just moving over the region. I'll show you that here coming up. And if you look out across Pacific Ocean, there we go. There's our low pressure center. We've got a powerful pressure gradient with that, and this will be racing up as we go through the day today. And just a reminder, I am on Bluesky now. It is the alternative to X. A lot of weather people are coming over, and yeah, just thought I'd give it a try because X is being overrun with ads and a lot of political arguments, and now they want you to pay $17 a month. Otherwise, my account gets badly throttled, and it's kind of disappointing because I spent years trying to build up the following there on Twitter and X, but I'm already bouncing back with some followers here. So find me on Bluesky, Seattle weather guy, and Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Now, take a look at Seattle. 55 yesterday. 58 is the average high for this time of year. Just a trace of precipitation, but that's going to be changing over the next few days as we play catch up rapidly at the end of the month. We're at 1.35 inches of precipitation. We average almost 4, but we could be picking up another couple, maybe a little bit more, a couple inches of rain as we go through the end of the month as well. So we'll be trying to get back towards normal here. Now, looking at the Seattle National Weather Service, they do have some wind advisories out for the northwest Washington coastline here. Some of the island counties, Port Townsend, San Juan's out there. And some of these wind gusts are looking fairly robust, including some of Long Beach, Westport, Ocean Shores. We could be looking at gusts of over 50 miles per hour. Astoria looks to be getting windy. And some of the interior areas are showing some pretty good gusts on some of the high-resolution models. I'll show you more on that here in a moment. Taking a look at Spokane National Weather Service, gusty Sunday coming in here, 30 to 40 miles per hour. Secure some loose items out there. Get still blowing dust, so watch out if you do run into that on some of the highways and interstates and back roads out there. Be sure to slow down a little. Now, take a look at the European Artificial Intelligence model. This is our system here, and there's that deep Gulf of Alaska low. So watch what happens as we roll in towards Sunday. You can see the very cold air arriving across Pacific Northwest. That system will be moving through after casting a powerful frontal system with it, and then we got another one coming as we go through the day Wednesday in this upcoming week. Another strong frontal system, cold air aloft, ripping across the area, and then another shot potentially as we go on in towards Friday. So we got 1, 2, 3 systems we're going to be dealing with there, and I'll do my best to cover that over the next few days, and I'll show you what kind of snowfall that could be bringing as well. So if we take a look at the about 500 millibars, about 18,000 feet, this is the actual temperature at 18,000 feet. You can see our system if you look closely here, moving up the Washington coastline, and then as we go through the day Saturday and Sunday morning, check out all the cold air that arrives during the day Sunday with our initial shot here. Then we're going to have multiple rounds of cold air continuing with this northwest flow aloft, bringing some mountain snows, some widespread precipitation here, and some gusty winds. Now, if we take a look at the combination of mean sea low pressure. So there's our low pressure center. Let me scroll this head a little bit here. We're coming up right here. This is approaching the Oregon-California border. And there's that low pressure center I've been showing you. Got the parent low with the very cold air aloft across the Gulf of Alaska. This one swings up as we go through tonight. You can see this pressure gradient get really tight along the Washington coast, Vancouver Island. Some of the northwest interior is going to get really windy tonight also. And then that moves through. And then as we go through the day Sunday, that cold air aloft starts to arrive. As you can see, the parent low starts to move inland right there, Haida Gwaii or the Queen Charlotte Islands on into western British Columbia. And as we scroll a bit off into the future, you'll see the next strong frontal system moving across the region as we go through the day Wednesday. Very cold air aloft will be associated with that. And then another shot here as we go through Friday and maybe the upcoming weekend. Taking a look here at the European Ensemble. So I want to show you the timing of the precipitation. Washington is off to the bottom right there. If we go in and through tonight, this is about 11 o'clock tonight, you can see the precipitation up the Oregon, Washington coast. It starts to move inland here very early Saturday morning. Nice shot of rainfall with that. And then we're going to bring another frontal system as we go through very early Sunday morning. It's going to keep the precipitation going, moderate or heavy at times for some areas, as that parent low is swinging towards the coastline. Very cold air aloft moving in. We're going to have thunderstorm potential as we go through the day Sunday. A lot of cold air cumulus out here. And yeah, some heavy rainfall associated with that. Maybe some small hail and, of course, a lightning strike potential. And if we scroll a little bit further out, you can see, again, another deep low across southeast Alaska, ushering in another frontal system as we head towards the mid portion of next week. So we got some very active weather coming up. Now, I do want to show you guys this. This is the lightning associated with the storm this morning. A lot of that does not make it inland, as you can see. The main threat is going to come as we bring the very cold air aloft with us across Pacific Northwest as we go on in through Sunday. You can see some of that starting to come across the coastal area Sunday morning. And then as we go through Sunday afternoon, maybe even the Seattle Metro, Bellingham, Southwest BC, Willamette Valley, Oregon coast. And then if we scroll through Monday, you'll see that thunderstorm threat does continue here across some of the region. We're not looking at widespread lightning activity here, but you could be seeing a few lightning strikes. Now, composite reflectivity on the North American model, you can kind of see how the data cuts off here and then out across the Pacific Ocean. But if we scroll off in towards this afternoon and evening, you can see the low pressure center spreading the precipitation as we go on in through tonight. It's about 9 o'clock. You can see some of that just now moving towards the Seattle Metro, or not now, but 9 o'clock. And then some showers moving through the Portland Metro. Precipitation swings inland as the strong winds get going Saturday morning. And then we've got this next frontal system will be swinging through as we go through very early Sunday morning across the region. Then the very cold air aloft arrives. Look at all these showers out there. And again, those could be packing a punch with some gusty winds, some heavy rain, maybe a lightning strike or two. And if you're really lucky, if you're a weather watcher anyway, you might even see a funnel cloud or something happen on Sunday. Some pretty good shear aloft and very cold air aloft can make that happen sometimes. Looking at 80-meter wind speed in North American model. Now, I want to show you here across the gap areas, you don't have to listen to me. You can probably go outside and notice that the winds are gusting. Stampede Gap, North Bend, typical areas up towards Gold Bar. The Columbia Gorge is going right now. Coastal areas, it's coming out of the east, and that is in advance of our next system. Then you can see this frontal system swinging through as we go through tonight, bringing some strong winds. Long Beach again up towards Ocean Shores, La Push, Washington, Northwest Interior is going to get ripping straight at Georgia, and we could get a decent surge of wind through places like Olympia, Tacoma, and maybe even Seattle. I'll show you some of those speeds here in a moment, but you can see as we go through tomorrow, very early tomorrow morning, it's going to be blustery along the Oregon coast as well. And as we go on in through Sunday, you'll see some of these winds kick up for eastern Oregon and Washington as that next frontal system rolls through. So it looks like the winds really start to kick up for eastern Washington on Sunday morning. And again, you can see these winds 80 meters off the surface, and it's going to be ushering in some very cold air. And you can kind of see these little individual showers out here across the Pacific Ocean as well that'll be rolling in on the day Sunday. So if we take a look at the European, this is that low pressure center that we saw in the satellite imagery there, and it goes swinging by right there, making its close pass. Then the parent low starts to move in towards western BC, and that's really going to usher in that colder air aloft. So we got that down now. Now let's take a look at the max wind gusts. This is hot off the press of the 12Z North American model. And again, across some of the Cascades, some of these winds are gusting probably up over 50 miles per hour in some isolated areas. And the gorge is pretty gusty this morning also. Then we get a wind shift here back out of the south, and you can see some pretty impressive gusts showing up. Look at Tacoma, Olympia, 44, Seattle, 40. Click the next hour. Look at that, Colin, 45 for Seattle. That'll get your attention, folks. That's a pretty strong wind. Tacoma, 45. Look at some of the coast, gusting 55. Look at La Push, Quileute, 61. And you can see those winds ripping across some of the San Juans, clipping portions of Whidbey Island. Bellingham getting some nice gusts also, and the southeast winds will be howling up through the Strait of Georgia, Vancouver Island, and there's some pretty strong winds up and down the Oregon coast as well. Cannot rule out 50 plus mile per hour gusts. Then we scroll on in through Sunday, and we'll start to pick up these winds as we go through Sunday morning for eastern Oregon, eastern Washington as well. Some gusts up towards 40 miles per hour, not out of the question. Again, those could be kicking up some blowing dust also. There should be some precipitation moving through on Sunday also. Could kind of be messy out there. Now, taking a look at the HRR, the high resolution rapid refresh. This is the accumulated 10-meter max wind gust as well. And you can see it cuts off at 18 hours here, but you can see the strong gusts up and down the Oregon, Washington coast, and again across some of the San Juans here, northwest interior. And, you know, it's starting to trend a little bit stronger with the Olympia and Tacoma gusts. And we're not out quite far enough. Probably in the next hour or two, once we look out, we would probably see some gusts in the mid 30s or towards 40 miles per hour for Seattle. Now, I want to show you here at 10,000 feet. This is yesterday afternoon's European model. There goes the initial system that has a subtropical tap. A very cold air aloft mainly arrives on the day Sunday. Then watch this next frontal system just come barreling across the Gulf of Alaska, plows into the Pacific Northwest as we go through Wednesday and on into Thursday. And maybe another shot of cold air the following weekend there. So there was our 1, 2, 3 system punch. Now, if we take a look at the European accumulated max 10-meter wind gusts, I'm just going to scroll out. You can see Seattle calling 36, but look at that, 45 for Olympia. That's nothing to sneeze at. Tacoma, some pretty gusty winds out there. And again, the coastal areas of Washington, Oregon could be gusting 50 plus in the northwest interior. Friday Harbor, especially Victoria, probably some big gusts, potentially 55 plus miles per hour. Could do some damage. Whidbey Island, Port Townsend included in some of that. And look at Bellingham coming in at 47 also. So versus yesterday, the Europeans kind of trended a bit stronger for Seattle. The control, the initial conditions, best we understand them, says 37. There's also a few higher gusts still mixing in there as well. So we could get a brief surge of some stronger winds across some of the Seattle metro. But you see some of these Ensemble members don't have much, you know, talking upper 20s or 30 mile per hour range, which is not a big deal. And just to remind you, as far as wind force is concerned, a 30 mile per hour gust, not a bad wind gust there. It'll get your attention a little bit. Is doubled in force once you go to 43 miles per hour. So yes, a 43 mile per hour gust is twice as strong as a 30 mile per hour gust. It doesn't sound like much here, but 43 and 30 is a huge difference. It's just kind of reference there when I'm talking about these wind speeds. And if we take a look at Friday Harbor, look at this Ensemble agreement. You're looking at gusts probably up over 60 miles per hour, 61 on the control run. And look at the Ensemble mean, very close to 60 miles per hour there. And then maybe some winds as we go through that next system, as we go through the midweek period. We'll be watching that one. But first things first, I'm taking a look at Victoria. This is in kilometers per hour, but right now we have pretty good agreement of some 50 plus, maybe 60 mile per hour winds coming for Victoria International Airport. So heads up for that. And similar for some of the Strait of Georgia there off to the north and west of Victoria. Bowerman, Hoquiam, been trending stronger as well. Washington coast, and this is a bit inland off the coast, 52 miles per hour. A lot of the Ensemble members are showing 50 plus mile per hour gusts. And look at that individual 146 showed 69. You can kind of throw out the high and the low there. But the Ensemble mean is right around 50 miles per hour. Then you can see that next frontal system as we go through the mid portion of next week. Now, Portland International, we're just showing some gusts, maybe 30 miles per hour or so. There's still some Ensemble members a little bit higher in there, but nothing too crazy. We're not looking at any huge inland windstorm with this setup. Bellingham, though, that kind of gets your attention. You see 46 miles per hour. You see a lot of these ensembles up in the 50 plus mile per hour range. Here's Astoria, 40, but there are higher gusts associated in there. Quileute, Washington coast, look at these wind gusts. You're talking about severe criteria at 58 miles per hour, and the Ensemble mean well up into the mid and upper 50s, and some higher gusts still showing. And I also want to call attention to this because it's still fairly early in the season. I mean, the sun is still setting at 6 o'clock, so there's going to be a lot of people out this weekend. And you can see we get this bump in the wave action on Saturday morning. Tiny bit of a break as we go through Saturday afternoon, but then some larger waves arrive as we go through the day Sunday. So do not turn your back on the ocean. Western BC, Vancouver Island, eventually Washington and Oregon coast as we go on in through Sunday afternoon. The wave action is going to be ripping out there. And so, you know, be careful. Every single year people get injured or worse by this wave action. Now, looking at total snow and ratio 10 to 1 inches, we're going to fly through this. Initially, the system is fairly warm that moves up tonight. But then as we go through Sunday, things cool off pretty dramatically aloft, and we start to bring some of this colder air aloft in towards the mountainous regions. And we're going to pile up a little bit of that snowfall, especially for the higher terrain. And as we go through the midweek period, We start to go through Wednesday, and the colder air aloft behind that frontal system on Wednesday really brings some notable snowfall here all the way down through California and Nevada, eastern Oregon, the Rocky Mountains of Idaho and Alberta. Some of Montana gets in the action, some decent amounts for the Cascades, and then another shot potentially next weekend here. So we're probably going to lose a lot of this, excuse me, a lot of this snow as we head on in through the month of November. At some point, we will get some warmer systems, and a lot of this lower elevation, 3, 4, 5, 6,000 feet will get melted away, but hopefully some of that can stick around for some of the higher terrain. Now, total precipitation in inches. Let's take a look at the European Artificial Intelligence. Again, this is going to be starting this evening, the precipitation along the coastal areas. It'll be swooping inland as we go through tomorrow morning. It's going to be hanging out. Sunday morning, we get another frontal system moving through, and then a lot of showers in the wake of that. And then we kind of scroll off and wait for the next frontal system as we go through Wednesday, and then potentially another one the following weekend. You can see that as we go on in through the end of October, we're getting us back up close to normal here for a lot of the places west of the Cascades. If this holds, and some pretty decent amounts across Vancouver Island, southwest BC, and all the way down through southern Oregon towards northern California, you can see the rain shadowing effect here across some of eastern Washington, eastern Oregon. You just don't pick up as much rainfall, but then of course you keep bumping back towards the Rocky Mountains there, and you do ring out a bit more. But you can see that same rain shadow effect across eastern portions of British Columbia, or at least east of the mountains there. Now, 6 to 10 day, you can see the below normal here all the way through November 3rd. That should be no surprise of everything we just looked at. Here's 6 to 10 day above average signal, and 8 to 14 day near normal and above average there. So, yeah. Drought monitor. This one is new as well. Not much change here. You can see there's still some moderate and severe drought across Washington, Oregon, western Montana, and portions of Idaho not doing too hot. There is some extreme and exceptional drought. Hopefully these systems can help out. So any kind of snow you can dump on the higher terrain here is very good. Snow is a very effective drought removal process because snow, especially when you gradually melt it, seeps into the ground better than versus if you just come and bring 1 inch of rain in a 12-hour period, for example. A lot of that runs off and gets into streams and creeks, but if the snow lands on the higher terrain, it can slowly melt into the ground. It can saturate the ground quite nicely, and you don't get a lot of runoff there. So it can really help some of the plants and whatnot, and drought conditions, soil moisture, things like that. But anyway, yeah, there goes our system. It's going to be rolling through tonight. There is a chance I may be live streaming later because I may go out to the coast and try to capture some of these big wind gusts. I've got an anemometer set up that I want to test on my vehicle. So if I do that, I'll probably live stream and you guys can play along and watch some of the wind gusts come in. And we may go out again Sunday to watch some of the wave action and maybe even try to capture some of these thunderstorms moving on with this very cold air mass here across the Gulf of Alaska. So storm season is here across Pacific Northwest. Hopefully you guys can find, half as much enjoyment as I do out of these systems. But otherwise, click like and subscribe. Check back tomorrow. We'll do this all again tomorrow, and I will talk to you guys then.